Hi, everybody. I am Danielle Dietrich, and I'm an attorney that works with DBEs and ACDBEs on all matters involving their certifications. So today's video is going to concentrate on the comments to the interim final rule that was issued at the beginning of October. The comments section is quite interesting, of course. And to explain what that is whenever the government issues any kind of regulation or law, there is opportunity for public comments. And so that is what I'm reviewing here. Those public comments are open until the 3rd. So that is Monday the 3rd. Today is Thursday, October 30th. So there's still time for you to submit if you're interested. So before we get into that, please ask if you are interested in continuing to receive content on the DBE program. Please like and subscribe so that I know that there's the interest, and I will keep on making videos to the extent I have anything to talk about, new updates. So there were, at least as of this morning, a little over 300 comments made on the interim final rule. Now, what the government does with those remains to be seen. Previously, for instance, when the DBE rules were last updated, there was it was put out there, the proposed updates open for comments, and then whenever the final version was issued, there was a preamble that went along with that explains the comments that were made, summarized them, and how the government chose to respond, whether they adopted some of the feedback raised in those comments or whether they chose not to. And that's always really interesting to read. Here, I don't know that that's going to happen because this interim final rule went into effect immediately and right before the government shutdown. We did get one set of frequently asked question responses that came from the USDOT last Friday. That was somewhat helpful because it did clarify that, for instance, you can appeal a denial of a recertification to the USDOT, and also that companies should get first recertified in their JOC, their jurisdiction of original certification. So that was helpful. But let's talk about the comments. Now, anybody out there can submit a comment, and I am going to put a link down below on how to do that to take you to the form where you can fill out a comment. You can fill it out anonymously, or you can fill it out with your name. You can submit, you can just type it in there, or you can upload a PDF or a Word doc. So, yeah, go ahead and do it if you feel so inspired. So, comment section, unsurprisingly, just like your local news station, is full of both useful, earnest information and a fair amount of trolls, especially when you're dealing with a program that talks about race and sex. That is like a big flag. Come and comment to all the trolls. So there were a number of trolls out there, and it's interesting because some of their comments, despite some of the hatefulness, the spelling mistakes, the unwarranted and vague allegations of things being unfair and fraud. There were a few good points actually in some of these. It does pain me to say that, but it is true. For instance, there were a lot of complaints about the administrative burden to comply with DBE goals, and I do feel like that is a legit concern because I do think there's a lot of administrative burden on primes as well as government entities as well. There's a lot of complaints about discrimination against Caucasian males, all of which ignore that non-presumed individuals have had a method to qualify for years. So people who didn't fall into one of the presumptive groups have been able to do a personal narrative to say how they have been disadvantaged and submit that and get approved. And a lot of folks don't know that. At least one person called the program a legal racketeering operation. There were some people that did come up with their business name, and I thought that was interesting. When you're posting something that's kind of hateful and nasty, it's usually not advisable to do that with your business name, but hey, I guess, be who you are and everybody can know that. One thing that I did think was legit that they raised is the insufficient oversight and slow or total inability to deal with complaints. I know I myself have raised complaints about a couple DBEs on behalf of my clients previously, on behalf of those DBEs, that those DBEs were not qualifying. Their owners had exceeded the personal net worth, or the person they said was the owner really wasn't the owner. And it was a huge, huge task to try to get any action taken on this. Even when I had all of the evidence wrapped up with a pretty bow, here's all the source information for all these people's assets, this person's assets that we found publicly, all these properties, tons and tons of properties, boats, boat dock, um, everything but, like a horse farm, like everything. And it still took, I had to apply to make a complaint to the Office of Inspector General at the federal government level on the agency for not investigating that complaint, for not doing anything. So I do think that that is a big issue and an issue that has not been addressed. There were, of course, a lot of folks posting that had tons of misinformation and misunderstanding about what the program is and also what the purpose of the comment section was. Like someone uploaded their personal net worth statement. Not what this is for. Thankfully, the government, someone there did block that out from public view, which is good, so we don't know this person's information. A lot of people just don't understand what the program is or does or how you qualify. Um, so I thought that that was interesting as well. And so, in getting into some of the comments that are really supportive of the DBE program, a number of folks pointed out that this interim final rule, the language where you're not supposed to be able to rely on racial discrimination or sex discrimination. It's acting like those things don't exist. It's erasing those experiences. And that's not okay. And if you're watching this, you've probably had some of those experiences and you probably agree with that. There were tons of comments generally in support of the DBE program and how much it has meant to different companies. A lot of stories about how these small companies were unable to get business until they qualified for the DBE program, how they faced, basically trying to face off against these mega firms who are getting all the work, and how they have a disadvantage in raising capital and even getting a foot in the door. And I think that those are valid as well. So shout out to whatever professional engineering organization out there was trying to organize commenters, because I would say about a third of the comments were from PEs submitting comments. It looked like a concerted effort about, in particularly, how the DBE program benefits small businesses and also the legal issues associated with the interim final rule and how it was just put out there. And there are a lot of legal issues. We won't get into all of them, but it was a good analysis. So props to you and props to whoever organized that. There were a number of comments about how DBE should be replaced by a service-disabled veteran-owned small business requirements, or that SDVOSBs should be included in the DBE program. So the SDVOSB is a separate program through the SBA, and service-disabled veterans could pretty much always apply for the DBE program and make an individualized showing. And I think disability, particularly service-related disability, is a great thing to use as an example in a personal narrative. So I think some of those folks probably didn't know that they could have applied in the past, and maybe they should have. So I think that it's a different program, and I wholeheartedly support. I have a number of clients that are SDVOSBs, but I don't know that was quite the appropriate place for those comments. I think it's a good cause, but the interim final rule is really limited to this recertification issue in particular. There were a lot of comments about the administrative burden that this has created, and I know that's a huge administrative burden because I've been helping you all with that administrative burden. I have been working with clients on a flat fee basis for developing their personal narratives. And not only is it an administrative burden, but hey guys, I know that it's been a personal burden too. I've been seeing that it has undone a lot of therapy, years of therapy for some people. It's been difficult for me to read some of the things that folks have gone through, but I very much appreciated reading everyone's stories. A number of commenters pointed out the inconsistency that may happen across the different states because of the lack of guidance. There is no rubric, there is no scoring system, there is no real guidance as to how you're supposed to evaluate who qualifies and who doesn't, and what's going to happen. Different states have different rulings and view things differently. A lot of commenters said, hey, this should not have gone into effect immediately. This has a huge financial effect on people. There needs to be a transition period, and you shouldn't do it like you did it, which was to drop it, say effective immediately, and then, see you later. We are going into furlough because government is shut down. And I think those are very, very valid comments as well. There were a lot of comments encouraging that this morph into a small business program, and I think those are valid comments, and that's something I've personally thought might be the future of the DBE program is going that way. There was at least one commenter that talked about how this new policy should not apply to the Native American-owned firms because they are viewed sort of differently, and I think that is also potentially a valid comment. And a few comments were that this should be a micro business program, and that a $25 million company should not qualify for this just because they are considered small under the SBA size standards. $25 million is not a small business. And to me, my personal opinion is that depends on the work that you are doing, because some of these things, that's the business that you are doing. That's not the profit that you're making, particularly in DBE work. I understand from a lot of you that the profit margins are very slim. So even though maybe you are doing this huge amount of work, you're not getting rich off of it. And then finally, something that I wanted to point out is previously, when there have been changes to the DBE program, in the comments, we have seen submissions by industry trade groups, and also the UCPs themselves, often some of the certifying agencies, making comments about how it affects them or affects their members. And there's a lack of that this go round. Now, there's still time for those to be submitted. We still have, a couple more business days. But that is striking to me, because I think that there should be some industry groups speaking up, but I think that may also go into the general feeling of, I think there's a feeling of, will these comments really matter? And that is a question I can't answer. So that is my summary of the comment section, so you don't have to go and click through and see what people are saying. Again, thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe. And if you are a DBE or ACDBE or looking to become certified, please reach out to me. I would love to work with you. Thank you and have a great day.